everyone, and welcome to another program for our Let's Be Neighbors series at the Salt Lake County Library. We are excited to introduce a new topic, and that is civil discourse. And we feel it's a really relevant subject for the next few months. It's always a relevant subject, but particularly relevant right now. And we are going to be discussing a few different areas of civil discourse. Today, we are so excited to have Joel Huff, who is here to share with us civil discourse in the workplace. Joel is the head of Care Center Operations and Oversight with VEST EAP with the Salt Lake County organization. As a licensed clinician, Joel has the honor of helping people one-on-one when they need support. And Joel uses these interactions and his history as a professional actor to inform the VEST trainings and workshops to keep them relevant and helpful for all that attend. Joel, we're excited to have you share with us today. And I'm going to turn our time over to Joel now. And at the end, we'll have a few questions. And then Joel will wrap up his presentation after that. All right,
Okay.
Joel, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you for having me. I love being here with the county. I love that you guys focus on these types of things with mental health and with the political climate and the things that are coming up. Hopefully we'll learn some helpful things today about how to navigate those kind of situations. And I'm looking forward to questions at the end because I feel like those are sometimes the best time to learn. So if there's anything in this presentation that you want to follow up with me further, there is my email, joel@vesteap.com. Reach in, let me know. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. My first slide, what do we see here? We see a lot of different triangles, and I feel like triangles are really helpful when we talk about these types of issues, right? We have one side, another side, and other, and then maybe where I'm at in the middle, and that can be frustrating, can be uncomfortable for people. And so I wanted to kind of use triangles to explain some of the things and the different dynamics that can be at play in these types of situations. So does anybody know, or has anyone seen this before? This is the drama triangle, right? There is the persecutor up in the left corner. That maybe is somebody, if we're framing it in a political discussion, somebody that is going too far in the workspace and maybe got somebody over, the victim trapped between a rock and a hard place, and they were just trying to take a break, but then they ended up really upset because the persecutor did something to them. And then the victim takes that to the rescuer, their friend that, is their confidant, and they tell them, without the persecutor being present, what happened and kind of the unfairness that took place in their own perspective, right? Now the rescuer has been influenced by the victim and wasn't there when anything went down, right? So they only have the victim's perspective. And also, the victim hasn't given the persecutor any information back about how they really received the event, right? So that energy goes into the rescuer. The next time the rescuer runs into the persecutor, they're influenced by what the victim has told them, or maybe even they share with the persecutor, hey, I can't believe you did that to Kathleen. She was just trying to get a drink of water. And the persecutor's like, what are you talking about? I thought we just had a nice discussion. So now they're upset again, and they go to Kathleen again, the victim, and they say, hey, why did you tell the rescuer what was going on with us? Like, why didn't you just tell me? And then the victim goes to the rescuer and says, why did you even tell them about that? And they were like, I was trying to rescue you, and they're a bully, and whatever. And it goes on and on and on, and it feeds itself. And that's why it's called the drama triangle. And can anybody think of a good way to stop the drama triangle, or to put an end to this kind of pattern that can go on? So I used to work in residential treatment centers for substance use, addiction, and other mental health things, and people lived there. So we would have all kinds of drama triangles around all kinds of different things. People didn't like each other. People didn't do the dishes right. People sat in the wrong place in the van. You know, all those kinds of things would be going on, and ultimately the way to solve something like this is to get everyone in the triangle in the same room at the same time. And that way, the persecutor gets the actual information from the victim. The rescuer is there as well, and it stops the cycle, right? That's how we can kind of dismantle these things, right? Um, and I'll talk about other things that might be helpful as we go through that. I want to give you an exercise for you to do right now as you're watching this. This is another triangle that I work with, and this can be really helpful in therapy sessions if I have somebody that's feeling, you know, very much in a victim place, or like they were abused or hurt, or there's something going on with another person that is really hard for them to see the other side of it. Okay, so the first thing you do is you think of a frustrating situation for yourself, something that's actually going on in your life that is hard for you right now. And I'll be thinking of something as well. And what you do first is you just write from your own perspective. Okay, I I think it's unfair that we have to watch this webinar. You know, I didn't want to watch this webinar. Why do they do these webinars? That's ridiculous, right? Because they're helpful, but I'm just trying to let you know from your own perspective, you're writing, just free writing. Don't judge what you're putting down. Just, this is a frustrating situation and it's against, you know, whoever it's against from your own perspective. Now let's go to the other person's view. So them, so it's you versus them, whatever it might be. Maybe in my scenario that I shared, it's the library's making me watch this webinar, you know, whatever. So now you are from the perspective of the library or the county saying these kind of webinars are helpful. It's good to talk about these things, right? So you're now trying to put yourself in their shoes, and what would they say back to you? What would their answer? What's the other side of this instead of your own perspective? And now try to write from that perspective for a minute for yourself. And it can be helpful. It's shown in studies that if you actually change your physical view or seat in the room for yourself, when you take a different perspective and then write from that perspective, it can be a little more helpful for some. So writing, and again, if you have a lot of energy behind what they might say back, pause the video and write as much as you need to kind of get their perspective out for yourself. And then finally, shift to another position where you are an outside perspective, where you can see yourself and your side of the argument. You've heard the other person or the other entity and their argument back. You see the whole argument as it's taking place in both sides, and then you write from an outside perspective, taking that in. What do you have to say to the two sides about this disagreement? And again, just write whatever comes up. I will let you know that I've done this exercise in sessions. I've done this in groups. And a lot of times people can get that new perspective, raise a little more empathy for themselves or the other side, or especially in that outside perspective, kind of get a whole new feeling about the whole interaction that's taking place and how they're taking part in the interaction and helping keep the engine and the energy around this going. So it can be one thing to try to choose and say, I'm going to do better. And the only person that can really help you be in a better place So there's days of the week where, or times or hours, whatever it may be, where I get into my red zone. And some of you who've worked with VEST might notice this graphic. You've seen it before. This is really important stuff, I think. So we need to notice if we're in the red zone, right? A lot of us can be triggered by an event and we get into that fight or flight place, and then we never really get back into our reservoir of resilience, and we go into maybe shutting down or freeze because we're fight or flight for so long and we just need to shut down, and we never really are in that place where I'm feeling good, like I can have choices about how I'm showing up, have choices about how I'm feeling. So some days, if I've been doing really great, if I'm taking care of myself, and I'll talk about some of the ways that we do that with self-care moving forward in the presentation, but only myself can get myself out of the red zone, get myself out of the blue zone, and actively choose to expand that reservoir of resilience for myself. There's going to be different things that work for different people, and your work is to try to find things that help you expand that reservoir of resilience. When I'm in a great place and I've been doing those things that help me have a big, wide open reservoir of resilience, there's very little that you can say to me that's going to ruffle my feathers, that's going to influence the way that my day goes. And I seem to just be able to kind of handle anything when I've been taking good care of myself, when things are going my way, right? And when I'm taking that responsibility and understanding that I control my own happiness, right? Which I might be focusing on the negative things out there, and the diet and how I take that in. We as humans, we want to focus on the negative things as a way to protect ourselves. But when we have our reservoir of resilience is in a good place, we have more choice to choose out of that and pay better attention to what I'm ingesting mentally, what's going on for myself, right? Maybe there's a problem going on at work that's a legitimate problem. I then take it home with me. I then bring it to dinner with me. I then, go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. And the only person that is responsible for that kind of ongoing torture or pain that I'm bringing in is myself and my thoughts, right? So finding ways to expand your reservoir of resilience where you can put it down. Okay, that interaction's over. Now I'm just in my car. I'm just in my car and I'm not having this fight with them anymore. And I need to use this time to recharge. Maybe it's music that I like. Maybe it's a walk in nature. Maybe it's whatever it is that's going to help me get back to that reservoir of resilience. When I'm in a good place, you can't upset me. And then when I'm not, chewing, the way you're breathing, the way anybody's doing anything can be aggravating to me. And I'm the only one that can know where I'm at and not blame them for that, and realize I need to be doing more to get to a more resilient place. And maybe I'm letting things in more than I want to, or they're having more of an adverse effect than I want them to. Here's some ideas of how you can practice self-care. Focus on what you can control. I can't control anyone else's political views. I can't control anyone else's beliefs. I can't. And so when I try to think that I can influence that, or I want to change other people, I really just can't. So noticing, am I concentrating on something that I have no control of? And I do it all the time. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Ooh, I hate that. There's nothing I can do to change it. I'm going to spend all day thinking about that. And that's on me. I need to focus on something else, unless there's actively something that I can do or a way that I can show up that can help with that. So focusing on the things that are within my control. One of those things is a budget. How are you doing financially? Not spending too much. That can be one of the most stressful things we can do, is feel like we're behind on our finances. Being honest with yourself and others, right? We're going to talk about how these kinds of events or difficult conversations can affect us. If you can say, I feel uncomfortable talking about this at work, like, that's not up for debate. It's not it's not, you know, you shouldn't be talking about that at work. That's engaging in a fight. I feel like I don't want to talk about this. I feel like this is uncomfortable for me to be talking about. There's nothing to argue about there. That's just letting someone know where your comfort level is, and that's not in their control, right? You're just setting a boundary that's not up for debate. So honesty can be really helpful. When stressful things are happening, continuing our healthy routines is the best thing we can do, and it's also usually the first thing to go. I'm moving, doesn't matter what I do. I'm not going to sleep. Maybe there's going to be more alcohol. Maybe I'm going to eat like garbage. You know, that's the exact opposite thing that we should be doing or could be doing to help us with a stressful situation like a move. Avoid and limit your alcohol and drug intake. I'm not trying to be, you know, the recovery police or preach sobriety or anything like that. But if things are getting hard, that's probably not going to help. You know, there's never really been a time. It gives you that immediate release and that kind of self-medicating piece. And then it also brings in the recovery necessary from that. It affects how well you sleep or rest at night. Might affect, you know, your dehydration, increase headaches, all kinds of things with digestion as well. So if things are hard, there's definitely a couple things that can make it worse. So just really monitoring that for yourself. This is a really good one for what we're talking about with this kind of civil discourse. Skip the drama. You do not have to pick a side in fights. Attend pressure-filled parties or any other gathering that makes you feel uncomfortable. It's okay to say no. It's also okay to attend an event and leave whenever you're ready to go. Okay? So take your own car to things. Have an exit plan. You don't have to get involved. I know the activism and, you know, are you going to stand up for what's right, or the way that things are so politicized and divided right now, they want to call you to action, they want to get you involved, and you know, you're a coward if you don't tell us who you're voting for. Like, that's all doesn't need to really be your truth. You have more options about that, and if that's what you want to, that's how you want to participate, no judgment. And if that's how it works for you and you feel comfortable in that, that's great. More power to you. And also respect others who communicate that that's not their comfort zone. You know, that that's not how they want to show up. This was a slide I added because I heard we had a question about listening. So there you go.
Joel, thank you so much for that awesome presentation. There was so much that we can use in our workplace, and so much we can put into practice, I think, in our daily lives that will really help us. Now, we have a few questions that we would love answers to if you can help us. And this first one is, can you please talk about actively listening? And I see that you've already got a slide up for that, so that's awesome.
Yes. So active listening, being present, really be with the person. Make sure you don't have any of your own distractions. You know, if I'm not actively listening if I'm also checking my texts, you know, or reading something on my phone. You know, really make sure there's no distractions. Be present. Be curious. You know, try to understand what's happening for the other person. Listen with empathy and compassion. Be still. Don't be all over the place. That's, you know, making someone follow you to somewhere else, or being distracting with your own physical movements cannot really be helpful. And you want to withhold judgment, and don't interrupt, and don't give advice. That's not good listening, right? Be reflective. So you want to summarize and reflect back. This is what I heard you saying. You know, it sounds like you really like the webinars. That's great. Thanks for sharing. And then be open, trust the moment, let go of your expectations, right? When we're listening, we can often be just kind of waiting for our turn to talk. Try to put that down and trust the moment that when it's your turn, you'll know what to say.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that answer. And we do have a few more questions for Joel. Let's see. When I realize I've overstepped or overshared, Is it better to apologize or to pretend it never happened? And how do I do it?
So I think you'll know the answer to that, depending on what you shared. And if you have an uncomfortable feeling, I feel like communicating that it is always worthwhile. I will do it in my own office if I need to. If I after a meeting, if I feel like I overstepped or something, or an apology is owed, even if it seems ridiculous to the other person, I just like, hey, this is how I'm feeling about it. I want to let you know I'm sorry about how I showed up. And sometimes I get reactions of like, it's not a big deal at all. Great. Thank you for helping me put it down, and I can do that. Um, that's kind of the best thing to do. Just be honest with yourself if you owe an apology or if you want to address it further. But I think ignoring it and pretending like it didn't happen is probably not usually the best approach, and waiting until you're in a good place to approach and communicate is a really good idea as well. And however you're comfortable communicating it, maybe it's an email, maybe it's an opening for them in that different kind of way. So just check with yourself about what's okay and what's not okay.
Awesome. Okay. Next, we have a question that says, what are productive ways to respond to coworkers or clients when they say something that you feel crosses the line? They say, for instance, politically or racially charged subjects.
Yeah, I think that it's clear is kind when it comes to that kind of thing, and we don't want to um, move past or get into a place where we're not giving the feedback to the person that needs the feedback the most. Um, I think you can just kind of respectfully decline and talk about your own feelings of, I'm not comfortable talking about that. I don't think we should speak about that at work, those types of things. And the way that you respond to something racist or anything like that, that's totally up to you and your values. If it's extremely inflammatory or really inappropriate, probably talking to HR, getting someone else rolled in about, so that you can talk to this person about what was said in a safe place with a moderator there.
Great. These are excellent tips. I think our other questions are ones that you've answered during your presentation and also with these answers to the other questions. So we just want to once again thank you so much, Joel, for presenting to us today about workplace civil discourse. And we wish you the best. And
Sounds good.